Welcome to Lunch on the Way. I'm Joey, joined by Jonathan, and there's no Graham again today.
Yeah. What's he doing today?
You want to hear some goss?
Yeah, of course I do. That's why I'm here.
That's what you're here. So we had booked in a whole time to talk today, and with a guest.
Oh yeah.
But then Graham forgot all about this thing he had to do.
Oh yeah. Sign of genius, I've heard.
Yeah, it is a sign of genius. Yeah. You're right. He's just so focused on everything else that we're just an afterthought, I guess.
Yeah, that reminds me. I mean, on that conversation, I'm so looking forward to that.
Yes, we're hopefully going to record that maybe tomorrow, but you won't hear it for a little while, so whatever.
Yeah. It's going to be a goodie.
But because Graham's not here, and because last time Graham wasn't here, we talked about me and my story.
Which was amazing. Well, that was such a good conversation.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm a narcissist. I like talking about myself. No, I'm not.
I'm not. And let me tell you why.
I'm not. No, today we're going to talk about Jonathan. And Jonathan already prefaced this with saying that he just doesn't, talk about himself that often, and he doesn't think he has a coherent life story, and he said he hasn't thought about it that much. No, I disagree. I think, Jonathan, you're deeply reflective about yourself.
I'm really not.
No?
And you're about to find out. About to find out.
So we'll see, and you can be the judge.
Along with everybody else.
Along with everyone else. But before we start, I just got to say that Jonathan is one of the most refreshing people to talk with. We recorded a couple things that we're not airing, and I'm not going to tell you what we talked about, but they were incredibly stimulating. I had thoughts that I hadn't had for a decade because of what Jonathan threw into the mix, and it really forced my position on some theological things, and it's really good. It's good to have people in your life like Jonathan who just push the boundaries.
And that conversation hasn't stopped. I mean, even this morning, I think we talked for about nearly an hour. 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Yeah, it's awesome.
It was intense. But anyway, so Jonathan, I'm going to tell you as much as I know about you, and then we'll go from the beginning.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, so Jonathan, you are finishing up your PhD work. Mm-hmm. You are older than 40 years old. This is, okay, when we were practicing recording these episodes, there was a bit of a running joke in some of the episodes that are not going to air, where I basically thought Jonathan was 35, and then he was laughing, and I'm like, "Oh, you're younger?"
Well,
He's
I thanked you.
He thanked me, but no, Jonathan is older than 35. And anyway, that was just a funny thing. I just had no clue how old Jonathan was for a while.
So good.
Yeah, you have a young spirit, Jonathan. So anyway, you're finishing up your PhD.
I even tried to grow a beard.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, but I couldn't.
No, you did well.
Sparse.
Yeah, if you're 40 plus, you should be able to grow a beard, right?
Yeah.
You could do, anyway. So you're doing a PhD, and it's on something that we're not even going to really touch on because it's just
let's not get into that.
No, we're not going to get into that. It's pretty intense. But prior to that, you did a lot of things, I imagine.
Yeah.
But the most I know about is that you were / are still a preaching or staff pastor or something like that at the Anglican church that you are a part of.
Yeah, I guess if we're going to step backwards from the PhD from this point now, actually the last job that the actual job that I actually had was as the manager of student support here at Laidlaw College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
so you're just helping students out and then managing the other team members.
Yeah. And kind of getting an integrated system about how we support students to write essays or onboard students to, secondary study and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's what I was doing. We had a small team, and one of those team members is now taking that over, which is Fiona Schuin.
Yeah, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's awesome. So that was the last job I had, but I actually started on at my church the very same time that I started my PhD.
Oh, so this is all very recent then.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Okay.
Although I've worked for churches for nearly all of my life.
Yes.
So for a long time, different churches. Yeah.
Okay.
And before that, I was a full-time artist.
I am just okay. Here we go.
Yeah. I just dropped the bomb on Joey.
You primed the pump.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what you do within the last 5 years to now.
Yeah.
However.
Yeah. Before the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I've been studying for about 9 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I was working as an artist and an illustrator. So I had my own business and I did that kind of stuff.
So how do you go from being an artist to writing a PhD on like some crazy philosophical, theological, linguistic thing? Don't answer that.
Yeah.
That's a too long of a question.
Yeah.
That's rhetorical.
Mm-hmm.
So let's back up.
Yeah.
Real far.
Yeah.
You were born in New Zealand, hence the accent.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that's pretty safe to say.
I can't hear it, but yeah,
I've
heard of it. I've heard that.
You've heard that you have one. All right. Well, I have one too.
Yeah.
So let's just start here and talk. Honestly, I want you to talk as much as you possibly can about this.
Okay, I'll give it a go.
How did you come to, I guess, like follow Jesus?
Yeah.
Let's just begin there.
Okay.
And give me the context to that moment as much as you can.
Let me just preface this by saying I feel like pretty much everything I say will be slightly weird because I feel like my journey into Christianity, following Jesus, has all been really bizarre.
That's good.
Yeah. And so how did I end up being a Christian, following Jesus?
And then let's go from like birth to that point and see what we get.
Okay, so I was born into a Christian family.
Yeah.
So both my parents are Christians, and at that time, I think they were like open brethren. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the community I first grew up in. But I really became a Christian, and reflecting back on this, when I think I became a Christian was when I was about 4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. Before anyone had really kind of said, do you want to become a Christian? And I was at a camp, as far as I can remember. I was at a camp, and I had gone along with my sister to some little group that they were running at a camp. This is a public camp, and there must have been like a little, group for kids.
Back in the 80s?
Back in the 80s,
yeah.
man. Well, 80s.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s. Yeah. And I went along there, and I have no idea what was taught. I have no idea how old the person that was running it. She could have been 18. She could have been 30. I have no idea. But at the end, she said, "Does anyone here want to be a friend of Jesus?"
Whoa.
And I put up my hand. And that's it, man. I walked out of there at that point knowing that something had changed. And I was only 4 years old.
How do you... Okay, what... See, my memories of me being 4 years old... I have
no other ones.
You've no other
No,
ones?
that is like...
That's the memory?
Yeah, that's the memory.
Wow.
It's wacky when I think about it. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, you've only got so many memories before you're 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the memory.
Yeah, and I have to place it before I went to school because I know that I hadn't been in a classroom setting. Like, it's that vague. Everything else is that vague. I'm like, I hadn't been in a classroom setting, so it was very strange to me. And then, so I must have been 4. I must have been 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Isn't that weird?
So I asked you, how'd you follow Jesus birth till now? You gave me from age 0 to 4. And I was...
Oh, we're going deep, man.
I was hoping you'd give me like, 0 to 16.
Yeah,
or like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I guess, okay, so that changes how I'm going to attack this now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as a listener, you might be thinking, oh, you know the people you talk to quite well. No, I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually
it's
don't
so
know
true,
you or
isn't it?
Graham very well.
Yeah.
We just have good conversations and we went from there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you had this moment where you just raised your hand and you're like, I want to be a friend of Jesus.
Yeah.
And you knew that you were different. How did that play out from that moment on?
It's a really good point.
Let's say throughout your schooling years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, completely forgotten. Completely forgotten. So, I grew up in my Christian household. I went to church, got involved with the youth group, all that kind of stuff. So I was in a Christian environment, had Christian friends, went to high school.
In Auckland?
In Auckland,
yeah.
out west.
Wow.
And got involved with a whole lot of non-Christian friends, as you do.
Yeah.
But, I would still call myself a Christian at that point. So, but I had completely forgotten that part of my life. So, the very first instance when I said, I want to be a friend of Jesus.
So you're living your life through the school, teenage years. Mm-hmm. And so when did you remember this when you were 4 years old?
Yeah, this is really weird. Like, I remembered this a lot later when, everyone, you go through those kind of existential crises. Yeah. What's this all about? And that's the memory, when I was probably at my lowest point in my life. We've all been through some very, dark moments. And in that moment, I remembered, you know what? I'm still a friend of Jesus, even though I'm in this incredibly dark moment. And it was that moment, I think, that held me through all those moments of doubt. And it still held me through any kind of wrestling moments. It always comes back to me. That it wasn't like anyone else giving me information saying you should believe it like this or believe it like that. It was so, in many kind of ways, so pure that it just left a mark on me the rest of my life.
That reminds me of when Jesus says you need to be like a little child to enter the kingdom of God.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'm like, there's like a sense of innocence.
Yes.
And just like easy surrender.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I've got nothing to lose because I'm a kid.
Exactly.
You know, I've got no responsibilities beyond this.
Yeah.
I can let go of my life right now.
That's right.
And follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah. And the amazing thing for me, and probably for many people here, we tend to operate out of a very kind of intellectual kind of, stance towards things. We do that. We love it, and it's great. But below all that is this my experience of having met Jesus. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
And everything else comes on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like the parallel to last time we talked and I told my story. And you said how, we actually have very similar stories. And that's that's a foundational moment.
It is.
That's kind of, It transcends the other moments in our life.
Yeah.
As like a grounding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just like, it forces you to realize, okay, I can have all these different existential thoughts and and doubts and questions about life.
Yeah.
But I can't doubt that there was a moment. I can't psychologize that moment out of existence. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, and I got to identify and redefine what reality is actually based on that moment.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And it's not only that an experience, the grounding is a relationship. Mm-hmm. That's it. And all the ups and downs that come with that relationship. Mm-hmm. Because you've met that person, Jesus, you keep on coming back to that.
So here's a question, not about your life, but
cool.
This is a tangent already.
Awesome.
We're already getting to a tangent because it just sparked a lot. So I'm listening to an ex-Christian talk about his experience with Jesus, his experience with the church and with thoughts and with Christianity. And he's no longer a Christian, and it's a public figure.
Yeah.
But at no point did this person ever articulate a moment kind of like you or I had, or many people I know have had.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, is it possible to even to even step away from faith in Jesus? I'm not having a Calvinist Arminian debate right now. That's not the thought I'm having.
Yeah, no.
I'm having a thought of, if you've actually had that reality defining moment with God, is it even possible to live your life the same after that moment?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question, and I wonder about that too, because I've got many friends that are no longer Christians, but man, I know they've had experiences with God. I mean, real life-changing encounters with God, and they're in. Now they've gone away. They said, "Man, I don't believe that anymore." But part of me wonders, I don't know if that's true.
I think you do.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about being touched by God that leaves a mark on you that is impossible to remove. And I think from that point on, you're either wrestling with it, embracing it, or just running away from it. But it's always there. And I think there's great hope in that. And also sadness, because you know that if they would turn back, that it would probably be very good for them. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? How would you answer that?
I think you're right. I like to, it's so easy and tempting to think of binaries.
Yeah.
And it's like the reason why someone isn't doing this is because they never experienced that.
Yeah.
And it's like, life is more complicated. However, when I'm just looking at different stories and people's experiences with God and Jesus, I'm like, did they ever know Jesus?
Yeah.
And did they ever actually come to a knowledge, a saving knowledge? And I don't mean a thought.
Yeah.
I mean an experiential knowledge of who God is.
Yeah.
Because I'm with myself, I'm if I didn't have that moment, if I just tried to intellectualize my way into this faith, and if I've just tried to rationalize my way in, I wouldn't still be in.
I think that's right. I agree. I wouldn't be either. Yeah. I mean, throughout my PhD, I've wrestled with things where intellectually it would make more sense for me to walk away from the Christian faith. that's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
And I wrestled with that.
Yeah, in the moment when you're wrestling with it. Yeah.
You know, intellectually, man, I wrestled with it. Never come across this stuff before, and it was very confronting for me.
Mm-hmm.
But what held me through it and was the relationship, the knowing that I've been touched by something, and I've got to be true to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then to allow the questions to wrestle with that moment. And so, you know, throughout my PhD, in times of huge intellectual wrestling, I would just sit quietly.
Yeah.
And just sit with the moments of doubt and the moments of, you know, frustration. And it's held me through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good thing.
And and it's not to say that Christianity is anti-intellectual or anti-rational. It's
not
just to
at
say
all.
the world's
Yeah.
a confusing space, and our emotions
Yep.
and our appetites and the things that we're attracted to and not attracted to, it can all be very confusing. And it's
Definitely.
hard to get to wade your way through the weeds.
Absolutely.
But the grounding thing is really that I've been touched by God,
Yeah.
and I've got to go back to that in this moment.
That's right. And it's that we bring our intellectual rigor to.
Yeah.
And wrestle with that intellectually. And in fact, there are answers, but they revolve around that moment of meeting Christ, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they go together, hand in hand. Yep, absolutely.
Speaking of going together,
Yeah.
so you and Jesus are together.
Yeah, we're together.
You didn't
man.
know about
we're friends, man.
You didn't know about that experience. You're friends. You didn't know about that till later in life, but you're going through your teens. You're still
Yeah.
a church kid.
Yeah.
You're probably going to what, secular public school.
Yeah.
You got all the friends. Similar story to me. You know,
All the wrestles.
all the
you know.
all the wrestles,
Yeah, it's
all the stuff.
happening. Yeah.
So then, what led you? Now this isn't a good question. What did you do once you had the freedom to choose your own path in life? Then,
yeah.
unless you want to fill in the gaps a
good-
bit more in high school.
Nah, probably don't need to.
But what
Yeah.
did you do with that freedom? The knowledge that you got Jesus as your friend.
Yeah.
He's there, but now you're done school.
Yeah.
You're 18.
Yep.
No longer with the parents if you don't want to be.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what was that like?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome, man. I was hanging out, so it was good. I'll tell you two things that, and I think they're going to come back to that story for some reason about the little kid meeting Jesus. Was that I ended up working for a church, a very Pentecostal kind of church.
What led you? How'd you get there?
A girl.
Oh yeah.
You're just Joey right now is just laughing at me. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I hear you."
There was no call at,
Yeah.
at a camp,
Yeah, that's right.
or was a girl in the front row and you're like,
no.
"That's me too."
Yeah, I was I've had a few kind of different jobs over the time, and I was doing an apprenticeship to become a lutherer, which is a guitar maker and violin maker.
Wow.
It lasted about a year. It didn't go well, but I met this girl there. Her father, her family ran this church, so started this church. So I started going along to this Pentecostal church
In the city.
Yeah, in the city.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually amazing, and I've learnt so much there. But like all big kind of churches, sometimes they go a little bit toxic, and it didn't go that well for me, and maybe for a lot of other people. And that kind of threw my faith, the faith that I had at that time, into a bit of a spin. Yeah. So and the years after that were like dark years.
So this is your early 20s?
Yeah, this is early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's when things kind of, things get a bit dark at that stage. And what I did was classic, I ran away from that moment, and I went overseas. So I went and lived in crazy place, Israel, for a year. So
you lost your faith.
I lost my faith. I didn't lose my faith. I was wrestling with the faith that I'd been given through that kind of church experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very charismatic. So what happens when it falls over and your faith is built on a charismatic leader, and they disown you and all the other people that are leaving because you're not following them anymore?
Yeah.
Suddenly faith falls apart for you. So so at that moment I went overseas just to kind of get away from that. And crazy place. I went to Israel, of all the places you could go.
So did you go to Israel in the early 2000s then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I lived there for a year, just in this this guest house, like volunteering.
What town?
Jerusalem.
You went to Jerusalem?
Inside the old city.
Oh, okay.
Right inside the old city. And that was a real eye-opener, man.
Dude.
Yeah, it was amazing. But things don't get any more real when you've got to live your faith.
Yeah.
People die because of their faith there, man. So I met a whole lot of different people from a whole lot of different faith kind of stances, all of them with different opinions about what life is about. And that was a huge eye-opener for me.
Can I ask, so you're in Israel.
Yeah.
You're wrestling with what's my place with this whole God thing.
Yep.
What were your biggest takeaways after that year? Like, what did you... Obviously, you've reflected on it.
Yeah.
So what were your biggest takeaways after being in Israel? And by the way, what were you doing? Like, what were you doing for work?
Yeah, I wasn't working. I was volunteering at a guest house. So I would work for them. Like, I would be a cleaner or like the person that made the beds or something.
And you live for free there?
And live for free.
Yeah. Okay.
Had my own room. People came and went, like different, travelers came through. Yeah. So I met a lot of people there.
So then what were your biggest wow, you're meeting lots of people.
Yeah.
You're in a very high tensioned area.
Yeah.
Old Israel.
One of my mates got stabbed one night on the Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
I mean, this is because he's a Christian. I mean, this is legit. And then I had Arab friends who were living in the Gaza Strip, who were, getting persecuted under, the Israeli government. I mean, it was a huge eye-opener. And at that time, I had no idea of the politics. One night, I moved my friend into one of the settlements. This is...
In Gaza.
Yeah, this is contentious stuff, man. I had no idea what was going on.
You're just a 20-year-old kid,
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, man, that sounds awesome. We're like, hey, man, we might be shot at. So, like, if we pull the car over really quickly, just duck down. I'm like, yeah, it sounds awesome, man. Okay, let's go. So,
man, what were your parents thinking? You didn't tell them those stories, did you? No, you told them after you got home.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like you could email, but no video calls.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Okay, so wow.
So
okay.
yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy time.
You just said that, and then we'll go back to the same question. What were your biggest takeaways? What were the biggest takeaways that formed you? That really you've carried along with you to this point? You think?
Yeah. The biggest thing was actually when I came back. And my friends, someone got in touch with me, and I won't say who, and they were like, man, you should come and talk at our home group, and we need to get you because you've been to Israel. It's been amazing. Tell us, tell all these kids what you're going.
They weren't ready.
I wasn't ready.
Oh, yeah.
Because it shocked me, and this is what classic traveler, mate. It shocked me to come back, and people are like, what clothes should I wear to church? Do I look good? Is my hair good enough to go up on stage and be a charismatic, preacher? Have I got the right genes?
So did you go back to a more charismatic church when
No,
you came back?
I didn't. I didn't. I actually came back incredibly confused.
Okay.
Because I came back into a New Zealand environment where Christianity was just another kind of option on the table. Man, in Israel, religion is not an option.
No.
You were born into it, and it's life or death. It is, the things that you think and the things that you follow mean everything. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was the reality of religion and how much it shapes the world, how much it really kind of is our life. So, yeah.
So that was one takeaway?
I think that was the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're more confused. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just more confused.
You're more confused.
But I knew something. I think a decision needed to be made. Do I follow? What do I follow here? Do I really believe this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, what did you do when you got back? Then, like, what did you do for work?
Yeah, that's when I started up my art business. So I started doing art. Yeah.
What kind of art?
So I'd make these big paper cuts. So huge pieces of paper, like A1, like big pieces of paper. And I'd cut these out in very kind of intricate kind of patterns and pictures. And I would sell those to, I had a dealer that I'd sell those to 5-star hotels in Hong Kong and Singapore because the Asian market loved that kind of stuff.
Dude.
And I'd also do illustrations for people and businesses and stuff like that.
Were you making good money or was it like an artist?
Oh, no, it was crap money.
It was crap money?
It was terrible.
Well,
but, it was just me and I didn't have to look after anyone else. So it was perfect, man. It was great.
When you say you're going like send us to Hong Kong, I'm like, oh, money.
Yeah, I mean, that went pretty quickly though.
Yeah, it was like one contract. Oh, crap.
You're like, oh crap.
Thailand.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
South Island.
You're being an artist. You're just living. Yeah, what happens next? Like, where do you?
I'll tell you what. Now this is going to be the strange shocker of this story, and yeah, I've only really recently started to tell this story, so this will be a good one. All right, now everyone will know. Yeah, so it was a strange time, a very confusing time, and I was living in town, and even though I kind of believed in God, I wasn't really following God, and got into some dark places and dark stuff. Anyway, one night after I ended up in hospital, and I ended up dying, serious, for like 40 seconds with the paddles out and everything, shocking back to life. Yeah. So a real full-on moment. And in that moment, I had an experience with Jesus. And in that moment, Jesus said, I already know. We're already friends. I've known you this whole time. I know everything you've done. I know everything you're going to do. And it's okay. I'm here. I've always been here. And the next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed. And everything had changed. And nothing had changed. What a strange experience. Yeah. Mic drop, hey.
Yeah, I got nothing to say.
So, but the funny thing is, let me say it. It was the same experience that I had when I was 4 years old. It was the same Jesus that I put my hand up and said, I want to be your friend. And it was the same Jesus that I met in that moment of death. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's not coincidental.
No.
That's real. That's real.
Two big chapter moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part 1, part 2.
Part 1, part 2.
And they coincide.
Absolutely.
It's like a big chiasm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And it couldn't have been just some kind of brain experience. It was just too much for that. It was. Yeah.
Did you see anything?
It was a strange kind of seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's too hard to explain.
Yeah, don't want to.
It's too hard to explain. It wasn't really a seeing. It was just a knowing.
A know, yeah.
But in that knowing, you know everything's been seen. It's very strange.
So prior to this moment of dying, and then, which is, I guess, I don't want to push you too much because you just told that story. You don't tell it very often. Yeah. Now I understand the hesitancy maybe and why you
because people are like, that's nuts, dude.
No,
I know.
Dude, it's people's experience, right? You can't refute stuff like that.
No, yeah.
What am I going to do? Disagree with you?
Yeah, no, totally. And even if you did, it'd be, that's how it happened.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't change it.
Yeah, I can't change it.
Yeah, it's like I can't edit it. Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't told it because I always feel I feel like I've been apologetic for it. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't want to have that experience. Yeah. And people are like, man, I wish I had an experience like that. And I'm like, you really don't. Yeah. Like, you don't want to get that low. Seriously, man. You do not want to get that low and be that broken that you die. Mm-hmm. To meet Christ, because Christ is right there ready to meet you now. Mm-hmm. I mean, start living now before you die, honestly. Yeah. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah. So you get back from, I'm going backwards because I need to help redefine this moment a bit more. Yeah. But don't say anything you don't want to say. Yeah. So you get back from Israel. Yeah. You're an artist. Yeah. And then is it fair to say you're on a bit of a downward spiral?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what did that look like? You don't have to go too into detail, but like, is it just like making the wrong, like stereotypically wrong choices, or was it a bit more existential than that?
It was way more existential than that. And looking back on that, I'm like, that was probably, that's just how I operate. Like, like what the heck is the point of what's life about?
Was it a bit nihilistic?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it got to that point, like, incredibly depressed. Mm-hmm. But depressed because I could not figure out what life was about. I just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that I have to ask the deepest question. Otherwise, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere.
And you can't function without the answer.
I can't function.
Or without at least you're pointed in the right direction for the answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's my, I'm doing a PhD in philosophy. It's almost like my philosophical mind. Like I'm like, okay, you've given me an answer, but what's the deeper answer here? And I keep on pushing for that. And if I can't find it, I find myself in a real tricky place. Keep on pushing for it. Yeah. So it was a dark place.
Yeah. How old were you?
Oh, this is through my 20s. So,
like
early 20s.
Yeah.
Just before I hit 30. So for about 6 years,
I
think I was wrestling with those kind of things.
So you're 29 when this happens?
Yeah, 29. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Wow.
Yep.
So you're 29.
So late. That's kind of late, No. A
No.
lot of people are doing other stuff at 28, but 29.
I'll tell you what, if you've got those existential questions and you can't even ground reality.
Yeah, exactly that.
You can't ground reality. That's not late.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
Because I would be with the person like, hey man, you got to get a job and do all this cool stuff.
It's like, why?
I'd be like, yeah, why?
Yeah.
Like, what's it mean?
What's it like? What am
what's it mean, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, I see now the parallels a bit. Obviously, I didn't die.
Yeah.
But the same thing is like, well, what's the point of life?
Exactly.
I'm just going to die and that's it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the meaning of this?
But then you died.
And then you die.
And then it wasn't it.
And it was, exactly.
And that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
And then,
I think you can probably see some of the other conversations we've had.
It's all connecting now.
It connects. Yeah. It connects because I'm like, okay, there's something else.
But
let's not get into that.
Push you there.
Let's not get into that.
I already had that thought a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I know you did. I know.
All right. So you have this moment with Jesus.
Yeah.
In this moment of death.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't describe it, but you can know it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you said it changes you. And it changed you.
Totally changed me.
Because when I see you now, you are not somebody who is depressed.
Yeah. No.
You are obviously you wrestle, but you're not depressed. No. You don't have any existential dread or nihilistic ideations.
That's right.
However, that was obviously not you at some point in time.
Totally.
So this shift like pretty immediate? Like it's almost like God stamped purpose on your chest.
Yeah.
And was like, go.
And
be.
Yeah, exactly. Go and be.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wish it was like that. I'll tell you what, it was
like?
absolutely not like that.
Oh, dang it.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
And I think this is part of the truth of the story is that I woke up in that hospital bed, not confused. On one part of me, my mind blowing. I'm like, God is here now and everywhere. Yet I've woken up and now I have to deal with the crap that I've let myself be burdened with. Mm-hmm. That didn't go. It actually didn't go. And at that point, the work started of having to slowly say, Jesus is my friend and he'll walk with me through this, but the work needs to be done to unpack it and to deal with it. And that took time. Yeah. And it does. Sometimes it takes time. And it took reconnecting friendships. Yeah. It took talking with people about it, unpacking it. And one of the things it took coming and studying and saying, what's Christianity really about? So it was those three things. Reconnecting with people, because I think in depression you tend to isolate. So coming back to a life of community, coming back with talking with people openly and honestly about it, people that you can trust and people that you can work these things through, and then also getting a bit of kind of thinking about it intellectually, which is my thing. Wouldn't be everyone's thing, but I needed to get some, intellectual kind of understanding.
So you're wrestling and you're working and you're working out your salvation with fear and trembling.
Yeah, man.
That's
a good point. That's great.
That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, that's great.
So you go to church, I presume?
Yeah, off and on.
Yeah.
So I'd gone to my kind of Pentecostal church, charismatic Pentecostal church, and ended up going to an Anglican church, sneaking in the back of an Anglican church because well, this obviously I needed a different kind of way of doing church, and the liturgicalness really suited me at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was awesome. And also I found that the church that I'd ended up in, it was in town. I was living in town by myself, and it was in town. They really wrestled with the faith intellectually. They
Mm-hmm.
took it seriously as an intellectual thing, and they and the existentialness about it as well. Like, what's life? Who are we?
Yeah.
Listening to other voices that weren't just the popular Christian books of the time.
So would it be safe to say that because of this awareness that God is around you, He's with you, because of that awareness, would you say you leaned more towards the liturgical emphasis because you needed actual proper language around this experiential knowledge?
That's a good way to put it, actually. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. I think I needed to connect my experience to the experience of the church.
Yeah.
With a big C, the big tradition of the church, and who had wrestled with this for centuries. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not new. No. I'm not a new person, but it was new to me. No one had ever taught me about this in my whole Christian life. Mm-hmm. And I think part of that is what led me to fall away from it, because no one had given me any really good answers about how this connects to history, the growth of the person, none of that. Mm-hmm. You just came to church and had an experience and you went home.
Yeah.
But that was vacant for me in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I had the thought the month ago, I think Labor Day, I went to an Anglican church in Warkworth.
Yeah.
Up above Auckland, and I went through the liturgy, the whole thing, and I found it, like, I knew what I was getting myself into. I found it incredibly meaningful. Yeah. However, one thing I thought was interesting, and this is not a criticism to anyone, it's just, I was thinking, man, if I didn't have this experiential knowledge, this liturgy would be dead.
Yeah.
But because of this awareness that God is everywhere.
Yeah.
And He is my friend, like you've articulated, and I know Him.
Yeah.
And I'm reciting these words with these other people in the congregation.
Yeah.
And if you listen with your physical ears, they might sound a bit dead.
Yeah.
But if you listen with the ears of Jesus, it's like the most beautiful sound.
That's great. That's awesome.
Know?
Yeah.
But so then that's why you can maybe see the stereotypical understanding of more liturgical services is like dead.
Absolutely.
Or like not the spirit. It's like not really there, man.
Yeah.
It's like it's not there if you're not looking for it.
That's exactly right.
And also, if you don't have that knowledge, I don't think it's...
Yep.
But that's not to say that God can't show up in liturgy when prior to any knowledge, right?
Oh, 100%.
He can do whatever He wants.
That's right.
But I find if you put the cart ahead of the horse, it's like, then why am I singing these? Why am I reciting this creed? Why am I, standing up and saying and giving people peace?
That's right.
During the greeting time, the peace.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I mean, liturgy can be dead if it isn't, infused with an understanding of how the Spirit's involved with it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So they go hand in hand.
Sorry, it was in Matakana. It was up by Warkworth.
Okay.
Matakana.
Okay.
I should get that right.
Okay. Oh yeah, they're a bit, No, I have no idea.
No. They're actually, I think Warkworth and Matakana Anglican Church are like in a partnership kind of thing. But anyway.
Got you.
Yeah. All right. So you're attending a church in the city, more liturgical to help maybe just help you along this journey.
Yep.
And are you still an artist?
Yep, still an artist.
Yeah.
Yep, still an artist. And still an artist, but meeting these people that had studied theology, that really knew how it connected with the rest of life.
Yeah.
That faith made sense both intellectually and it made sense of their experience and of Jesus. Those two things connected. So, so attending then, and then I felt like, and this has always been a thread for me, I felt like I need to go and do some study. Yeah. So
you're how old? Oh no, time's good. He's gesturing to his watch. No, we're good. We're gonna. I know this is longer, and we haven't even gotten to your age right
exactly.
now. So you're going towards study.
Yep.
When do you get married? I feel like
I got married. Why? Everything happened real quick, man.
Yeah.
After
I'm doing the math in my head. Stuff. I'm like, I know when you got married roughly, and I know how old your kids are.
Yep.
So I'm like, it's got to be in there somewhere.
I got married in the first year, I think, of coming to study.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and my wife were super quick. We'd met once before, I think, when I was in the kind of Pentecostal church that I was involved in. She'd been in the back. We had hardly said anything, and then she turned up at a party. Like, this is when I was at the Anglican church. And for some reason, man, I was just like, I never do this. But I said, oh, can I have your number? And I'll give you a call. I'm not that guy, man.
Dude.
I'm not that dude. So, it was meant to be.
If you were one of my friends back in the day and you would have come up to us and been like, I got a number, we would have been like, oh, we would have lost
totally,
it.
man.
We would have been like, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So, so it happened all really quickly.
Yeah. That's awesome. And it's all after this moment, right? All after this moment.
Yeah. And then since then, I've just been studying.
All right. So you've been studying. So where did you go to study and what did you study in?
I studied at Laidlaw College.
Yeah.
So I did my bachelor's here and I did my master's here.
Oh, wow. So what's that, 5 years of school study?
Yeah, give or take. I think I started halfway through a year. It's probably been slightly longer than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but around about that.
All right. So undergrad, master's, and
and now, PhD.
And then now PhD. And then so you got hired on as student support services.
Yeah, that's right.
Within that?
Yeah, man, it's a bit of a complicated story, but I was doing my master's. Yeah, this is a funny thing. I was doing my master's here. So I had started a master's in biblical studies and realized, the whole way through I had done biblical studies. So I first year I did Hebrew.
Because you just want to know the Bible.
Yeah. So I did Hebrew and Greek. All my papers were biblical studies papers. Absolutely loved it. When I came to do the master's, though, and I'd started it, I realized, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't bring my two worlds together. It doesn't bring my kind of my existential world, my art world, and my kind of study world together. So I stopped. And then I went and worked for the Anglican church I was at for a while.
Yeah.
Yep. Doing writing for them. And then came back and then did my master's. Yeah. In a different topic, different area.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Kind of like postmodern thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hence, okay, I understand the PhD a bit more now.
Yeah, but not advocating for postmodern thought. This is probably really important to say. Not advocating for postmodern thought, but finding a way to be able to take the postmodern question really seriously and then lead that postmodern question back to God.
Yep.
To get inside of it, not to just critique it, but to get inside the mindset and say, where does this open back to God? Now, that's been really important for me, and that's what I'm doing in my PhD as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important because it's like it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere, and if anything, it's got stronger.
Yeah.
And you can argue with it, but that for me, I think you got to get inside it.
Yeah. You
got to be inside. It's like an escape room. You get inside the escape room, they lock the door, and you got to figure a way out.
Yeah.
And you know what? That, to me, that leads people through instead of arguing them out.
So that's what your focus is now, is postmodern thought. And that's a bit of a passion, obviously, PhD.
Mm.
And is that what is driving you probably theologically right now and philosophically is like, and what do you hope to do with that maybe into the future? Yeah,
that's a good question. Once again, it's coming, my PhD really, some people would put it in postmodern thought, but it's got to do with Martin Heidegger. And his question is, a lot of the postmodern thinkers come out of his thinking, but he himself, I wouldn't call him a postmodern thinker. In fact, he's far richer and more interesting, I think, than a lot of postmodern thinkers.
Throwing some shade at postmodernism.
Yeah, sorry. Yo. Yeah. Because Martin Heidegger is about what is life itself. That's the question he's really after. And if you want to put it in technical terms, is what is being? What is being? And how then do we come to experience it and know it? Because that gets technical, but he's after the most fundamental question you could ever ask. What is life? Mm. And to me, that's really exciting.
See, what I see, and this is what I think is beautiful, is a lot of our experiences in the past just lead us into the future.
Yeah.
And clearly that's the case with you.
Yeah.
You know, you're a friend of Jesus, but didn't realize that till you died and came back to life.
Yeah.
And then, but he was with you the entire way. You're in Israel. People are being in many different ways in Israel.
It's a good way.
And it's
good way to put it.
People got skin in the game to the point of stabbing people.
Yeah, right. Got it.
And then that being thread is to this nihilistic kind of bent.
Yep.
Death.
Yep.
Life in Jesus. What is it? It's almost like, all right, I know what it means to be in my heart, but I need to figure out how to articulate this properly.
Totally.
And I think postmodernism, if I'm putting words in your mouth, postmodernism might not be doing the best job at articulating what it means to be.
Yeah.
Because it's self-defeating. It's a circular argument.
Yeah.
There's no ground to stand on.
That's right. Yep.
But what within that postmodern understanding of the world might actually point back to being itself.
That's right.
It's almost like they took a train and they got off took a subway train in New York City and got off on the J instead of the R. You know?
That's exactly right.
And you're like, no, let's get back to the station.
Yep. That's right.
And let's figure out which route this, and hence you're going back with, what's the guy's name?
Yeah, Martin Heidegger.
And then going from the
that's right.
The postmodern daddy who isn't really.
Yeah, that's right.
And onward.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly. I mean, the thing with postmodern thought is that their experience of being, which is everyone's experience, is that everything, it just seems quite relative. Honestly, we could do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And that's a good experience of being, to feel that we are free.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the postmodern thought often stops there, and they don't ask, but why are we free like this? What holds the space of our being open? And it's those kind of questions that postmodern shy away from, I think. Yeah. Or don't push into enough.
Well, I'm really excited, maybe not to read your PhD.
No, yeah.
But what I'm excited for is when you write a popular version of your PhD and you really put it down into words that I can understand.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get there.
Oh, but you just gotta, I can help you with it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think what you just articulated right here is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because if you could actually explain that, because I think a lot of people are just like, there's the word postmodern. Oh. It's a swear word in Christian circles.
Absolutely.
It's a swear word in conservative circles. If you say that word, people have already put you in a theological category or a progressive category of thinking. Where you're saying, no, where's the gem within the dirt?
Yep.
And what can we grab out that actually points back to a reality that is grounded in being itself?
Absolutely. Yep.
And if you could actually articulate that succinctly, even in in a pamphlet or like a 30, 40 page thin thing.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm like, that would be so valuable.
Yeah.
Because if you, good luck.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, and I obviously people are working on this, not just you.
Yeah,
I'm sure other people are as well. But if we don't, not you, if we as a collective church don't kind of have people like you to force us to wrestle with these cultural tides, and it's more like tsunamis now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then what we'll find is we will not be able to talk back to culture in a way that is actually redemptive and actually speaks their language.
That's right.
I think for a long time we've been doing the whole like aesthetic cultural talk back.
Yep.
Where it's like, the Instagram, to like, you're streetwise as a Christian and you know how to like go through different social circles and you're cool because you play basketball and I play hockey with some guys, but I also go to church, so I'm relevant.
Wow, you're a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's like shallow relevance.
Yeah.
The real relevance is actually the work I think that you're doing.
Yeah.
Which is like, how do I talk to somebody who is on a completely different plane of reality in their mind than I am?
That's right.
And how do I do that in a way to bridge the gap?
Yep.
To actually have a meaningful conversation with that person.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is, I think we've touched on this before, is taking the experience of life, not just the intellectual kind of thinking through it, but the experience of it incredibly seriously and saying what you're experiencing right now is valuable. It's valuable. I don't care what the experience is. This is a valuable thing. It's true that you're experiencing it. But if you don't want to be there, let me help you open it up to a different experience too. Your experience could be richer and more full and more open by understanding what life is really about. Mm-hmm. So it's starting there. Again, it's that escape room. You get into the person's experience and you go with them, opening it up the doors for them. that have been shut to them.
Finding the puzzle pieces and the combos and
yeah. It's hard. That's difficult work.
Yeah.
But man, it's rewarding because that person will feel like that it's authentic to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the meeting of God in them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
What I want to say in conclusion is two things. I want to say that you've been a super important person in my life in the past probably year. We've had proper conversations since the last lockdown, at least.
Exactly.
And even before then, but because I know we don't always see eye to eye on some topics, but what's really helpful is that you're just super honest.
Yeah.
And you're helping refine my thinking. And I would say, I think I went through a bit of like a theological renaissance the past few months.
Yeah, awesome.
And still within orthodoxy.
Yeah, totally.
But just seeing things from like a whole different vantage point.
Yeah.
And I think you and Graham have been like two people who've really helped me with that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to say.
Awesome.
The second thing I want to say is thank you for sharing your story that you haven't shared before, especially the death experience.
Yeah.
What I would encourage you to do is actually share that more.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And I'd share that. This is where the evangelist comes in my heart, man.
Go for it, man.
Share that with people who you know aren't close to Jesus. Like, honestly, I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
Like, what led you to that moment?
Mm-hmm.
And then how's that led you to where you're at right now?
Yep.
And I'm like, man, that just like, that's powerful.
I think you're right, Joey. I think I'm on a journey of figuring that out.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason why I've been remembering it lately.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, man.